Oh my God. Do we have to go through what the CARES Act actually did too? Like, we know there was a big slush fund, but the stuff for the people at the bottom was necessary. And in a corrupt system, you're going to have corrupt aspects of bills. The good parts of the bills, like I said, went to people. The bad parts went to the corporations. But without that compromise, literally nothing would have gone to the people. I know it sucks, but we can't just cry about it. We have to be able to look at reality.
So I just want to remind you people what happened with the CARES Act. So when the COVID happened in March, they passed a stimulus bill, right? So it was called the CARES Act. Now, the CARES Act, as we've told you, was the largest upward transfer of wealth in the history of the human race, right? $5 trillion upward. And what didn't they do? They didn't make sure you were taken care of. They didn't give you a UBI and they didn't give you health care. That's the bare minimum they should have been doing. They didn't do that. Why? Because as George Carlin says, they don't care about you. This country is run for its owners, and that's the donors. And the Democrats bend the knee to them. Every Democrat, AOC, Rashid Tlaib, Ayanna Pressley, Ro Khanna, they all voted for the largest upward transfer of wealth while giving you crumbs. Crumbs. Bernie Sanders voted for it too, while giving you crumbs.
Yeah, so there's a lot of politicking that goes into making these bills. AOC had a big role in changing aspects of the bill. Bernie Sanders was going to hold up the entire thing if they didn't guarantee the $600 extra a month for unemployment. They did a lot of great things to make that bill the best part, the best version of what it could be. There's just simply certain things the political reality doesn't let you accomplish. They push for a UBI, they push for universal health care. They didn't get it.
And what does AOC do now? She tweets this out pretending like it wasn't a bill that was negotiated by Chuck Schumer and pushed by Nancy Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats run the House. This could not have gotten passed unless Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats said so. It did.
Yeah, they should have held it up for a couple more months, right? Make no compromise and give no stimulus to any Americans during the crisis for even longer. That's what they should have done, right?
And she fucking voted for it, and now she's still lying about it. Here's what she said. She goes, funny how you didn't hear Republicans complain about spending other people's money or ask how are we going to pay for it when they insisted on creating a $4 trillion leveraged slush fund.
That was the part the Republicans fought for. The good aspects of the CARES Act was from the Democrats. The bad aspects were from the Republicans. Just because Nancy Pelosi and Schumer, and I don't like them at all, I hate them, just because they pushed for the CARES Act doesn't mean they co-signed every aspect of that bill. That's not how freaking politics works. That's not how policy works. That's not how legislation works in our government. It simply isn't how it works. That bill is compromise. It's all compromise. And it sucks. Yes, they didn't go far enough. But you can't just gaslight the entire thing. And, Jimmy Dore is basically teaching a bunch of people to not think about the political reality of what's actually going on. So guess what? When we get into the political arena, Jimmy Dore fans won't know how to operate because they'll be like, well, this isn't right. Yes, we know it's not right. How do we, strategically act with intelligent precision to actually change it?
For the Wall Street buddies in March. Funny how you didn't hear her actually blame Nancy Pelosi or Chuck Schumer for it, the people who are actually pushing this.
They didn't put that part
into it. Funny how you
into
didn't hear any of that. And now she pretends it wasn't Nancy Pelosi and it wasn't Chuck Schumer, which we all know it was. And Bernie Sanders, too. They all voted for it. And they knew.
Again, voting for a bill doesn't mean you love every aspect of it. A lot of shit is put into these bills. When you have a central political unit in a country that, you're passing legislation that will affect 50 states in our country, which is essentially 50 countries, there's going to be a lot of shit in there you don't like. Does that mean you hold it up and you don't pass it? Does that mean you don't try to change it and make it as good as possible as AOC did? No, you make it as good as possible and you use whatever political influence you do have. They simply can't just go to the streets and say, all right, guys, burn down the establishment. That's not how this shit works. They'd be laughed at.
That no one was going to hold their feet to the fire against it, except someone like me. And then they could do this months later when everybody forgot about it. This is who she is. This is worse than gaslighting.
And she's this is who she is. AOC really isn't your friend. AOC is a liberal. AOC is a tool of the establishment. Do you see how he ruins our best chance at getting a progressive movement, which is in the Progressive Party, which is not Progressive Party, in the Democratic Party?
Mind fuckery and lying. She's blaming someone else for shit she did and her party.
She didn't do it.
That's the kind of no-nonsense ball-busting you voted for when you voted for her. And by the way, she just voted for Nancy Pelosi to be Speaker again without a challenge.
the person who would have been speaker if it wasn't Nancy Pelosi would have been far worse. And Nancy Pelosi, which is a smart political move, organized the elections for the leadership positions really quickly right after the election. So there was no time for progressives to get any influence or amount any votes to change it. You see, there's a lot of ways to describe what actually happened here that isn't simply yelling into your echo chamber a bunch of cheerleader terms. We need to know the different variables of government that lead us to certain, to certain conclusions, to certain, final terms of these deals. We have to know the variables, the actual variables, so we can affect those variables. Like what Jimmy Dore does, yelling emotionally, just saying AOC doesn't have the balls. That shit doesn't help any of us learn political strategy.
The Democratic Party changes you. You don't change the Democratic Party. And if you want to keep defending this instead of pressuring her to fucking do the right thing,
he's making it personal, like, oh, the Democratic Party changed her. No, she just is operating within the system she's given, doing her best.
Ahead. I'll be the only show on YouTube pressuring the squad and the Democrats to do the right thing, and the rest of them, that's a big lane, by the way, and I appreciate it, and the rest of you can go defend them. Go ahead. You've been fucking doing it all along anyway, you assholes. You fucking worthless, nutless wonders. You ever have an original thought in your fucking life that wasn't wrong?
Ever have an original thought in your life, and he's so, condescending, so arrogant, he thinks he knows everything. He thinks he has the entire world figured out. If Jimmy Dore was simply in AOC's position, he would have already led the progressive revolution. The entire government would have been fixed. It's that simple. It's like a video game. It's like a random talk show on YouTube. This is what's giving him the experience to be a governor, to be a legislator.
Shauna Burley says, funny how you didn't complain about how we can't negotiate with Republicans when you voted with them to give corporations $6 trillion. But now that the people need money, we can't let the Republicans win. How the COVID-19...
Oh, wait. Okay. When people need money, we can't let the Republicans win. The reason they aren't letting the Republicans win is because there is minuscule stimulus in the Republican plan. And also, in the Republican plan... they want to remove liability from corporations. So if a corporation puts you in a dangerous position and doesn't protect you and give you PPE to protect you from contracting COVID-19, they have no liability. That's what Republicans are pushing right now. That's why Democrats are not going with their current plan, because they want to protect workers during this entire process. It's not this simple as Jimmy Dore thinks it is.
Bailout. This is from Rolling Stone. How the COVID-19 bailout gave Wall Street a no-lose casino. While ordinary Americans face record unemployment and loss, the COVID-19 bailout has saved the very rich. That's what AOC voted for. That's what Chuck Schumer negotiated.
That's not what she voted for. You don't vote for each individual aspect of a policy. You vote for the final bill when you're a legislator. If you ever take a master's course on public policy or something, or if you're ever in a simulation, like a Congress simulation, you would understand this. You don't have a decision on the final bill. It is compromise. She is arguing with a corrupt system. We know this. But saying all the pressure's on AOC's shoulders is so stupid.
That's what Nancy Pelosi pushed and made every Democrat
nothing she could have done.
And
there's nothing she could have done to make this bill better. Literally nothing. Her and Bernie used their political capital to help workers through unemployment. They did that. And through liability protection for workers. They did that.
And no one will hold their feet to the fire for it. No one. I'm the only fucking show doing it. Show me a video of anyone else asking any one of those motherfuckers.
Show me a video of anyone else completely misunderstanding how our freaking government works.
Who voted for the CARES Act to justify it. The problem is the people in the media don't even know what's wrong with the CARES Act. And that's what they're counting on. House passes historic $2 trillion coronavirus economic rescue bill. The House Representatives passed a bipartisan historic stimulus package known as the CARES Act, which contains an unprecedented $2.2 trillion in total financial relief for businesses, public institutions, and individuals.
Businesses, public institutions, and individuals is literally the three aspects of the plan that went straight to people. Small businesses and mid-sized businesses, public institutions, local and state governments, and also it went to medical institutions and individuals. That was the $560 billion given through stimulus and the $1,200 checks.
Hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. Individuals is listed last there for a reason. Because who do they really take care of? Businesses.
The plan literally just is written out that way. Oh, okay, if he wants to say that, It's written in that order because he could say. I
That's who
don't.
they took care of.
That's a good point, right?
And public
That's a good
institutions, you
point.
mean like Wall Street?
No, the Wall Street stuff, the freaking quantitative easing was from the Fed. But never
Whatever
mind.
concerns we may have. This is Nancy Pelosi speaking. Now, this is when they had to pass that bill that gave trillions of dollars to Wall Street and the richest people in the country. So when they had to pass that bill, this is what she said. She goes, whatever concerns we may have and whatever we want to do next, right now, we're going to pass this legislation. So what?
The story about Tyson. Yeah, the freaking managers were betting on how many employees would get COVID-19. That's a perfect example. So Republicans want people like the managers at Tyson to walk away free with no liability to what happens to their employees. Democrats are not passing the bill because they think the corporations should be held accountable.
What
I
she's
think that's
saying
pretty
is,
good. I think it's pretty good when we have to, when we're trying to advocate for a movement that's based on worker rights, to support a movement for workers' rights. When AOC's doing it, when Bernie's doing it. I think that's pretty good.
when Wall Street has a check coming, I don't care what your fucking problem is or what you want to do next. We are going to make sure Wall Street gets that check.
Oh my God. Do we have to go through what the CARES Act actually did too? Like, we know there was a big slush fund, but the stuff for the people at the bottom was necessary. And in a corrupt system, you're going to have corrupt aspects of bills. The good parts of the bills, like I said, went to people. The bad parts went to the corporations. But without that compromise, literally nothing would have gone to the people. I know it sucks, but we can't just cry about it. We have to be able to look at reality.
And they did. But when people need a check, this is what Nancy Pelosi says.
The president does not want to legislate and just want to have his name on a check. That ain't going to happen.
But when Wall Street wants to check whatever concerns we may have and whatever we want to do next, right now, we're going to pass this fucking bill and get Wall Street their check. But what about when people
wait,
want
when
it?
was that quote from? What was the interview?
Does not want to legislate and just want to have his name on a check. That ain't going to happen.
If the president doesn't want to legislate and wants to have his name on a check, that isn't going to happen. What other, we need more about what she's saying there to know what the frick it's about. Like, is the bill literally just sending people money with Trump's name on it without providing protection for workers and without giving direct stimulus to small business? Like, you can't just play a 5-second. That's so dishonest. I hate Nancy Pelosi.
Take a stand when Wall
I
Street
can't
needs a
stand her.
check.
I think Nancy Pelosi is one of the most. She's one of the worst political liabilities of all time.
But when Americans need a check, not so much. That ain't going to happen. That ain't going to happen. AOC just voted for her as speaker. Joe Crowley would have done that. What's the point? Why not just have Joe Crowley in Congress? At least we could see that he's a piece of shit. AOC fakes you into thinking she's opposing Nancy Pelosi. She doesn't. She does whatever Nancy Pelosi says. Wait, she said something mean about Nancy Pelosi in an interview, I think, in a magazine, in Home Baker's Weekly. But then she went and voted exactly how Nancy Pelosi said. Yeah, but she's being mean to her in like these publications no one reads.
She's garnering political influence, and you have to understand too. Like when people attack Obama, for instance, when it comes to like favorability ratings in the Democratic Party, if you attack somebody, this is a general rule of politics. Like if you're on a debate stage and you have a low approval rating and you go very negative towards a candidate who is on the debate stage with you, who has a higher approval rating, that is going to hurt you. Because if you're a less popular candidate and you attack a more popular candidate, that hurts your political capital and your political influence and how people view you. So if you spend all of your time attacking like Obama, like calling him a war criminal, that'll hurt you politically, even if a lot of the criticisms are true. Within the Democratic Party. So AOC, even criticizing Pelosi when it comes to interviews, is a big risk for her. And we already talked about the voting stuff.
This is nuts. And here it is. And they're getting away with it. The legislation, the CARES Act, passed on a voice vote, which allows the House to approve a bill without requiring members to individually cast.
Oh yeah, I definitely think Jimmy Dore would vote for Tucker Carlson over over Joe Biden, because he cares about populism above all else. It's the populist left they talk about. It's Jimmy Dore, Nico House, Kim Iverson. It's, populism over. It's the people that really help fascism rise, because they see a right-wing populist and they're like, wow, they're fighting for the common man, like legitimizing people like Sagar from rising, although I think he's a decent guy, or legitimizing, when Tucker says something bad about corporations, and all the Bernie fans on Twitter, including, I used to do this, say, oh my God, Tucker finally says something populist. That's not good. We don't want to legitimize the far right as populists, but all Jimmy cares about is populism above all else.
To vote. The move quashed an effort from Representative Thomas.
Yeah, watch the Jimmy Dore Sam Cedar debate to see how dumb Jimmy Dore is. Maybe I'll watch that like tomorrow or something.
Massey from Kentucky, a Republican, to require members to appear in person and each cast an individually recorded vote. So the biggest upward transfer of wealth in history, and a Republican was the one who said, hey, we have to take responsibility for it. We just have to go on the record. And they didn't.
The question is on adoption of the motion. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it.
So that was a no. That was a guy's voice. That was Lou Rawls voting against it. That was not AOC voting against it. That was AOC voting for it. You fucking suckers. And now here's Thomas Massey doing what AOC should have done had she really opposed this bill. This is what she should have done and didn't, because she's a good little girl and follows along with what Nancy Pelosi.
And you have to also pay attention to AOC in her district in New York. I forget where she is in New York. Can someone help me with that? But in New York, the hardest hit place by the pandemic, it's much more urgent for a Congresswoman from New York to get stimulus passed as soon as possible that helps workers than it is for somebody in a rural area. You have to pay attention to that too, because people aren't just elected to Congress from like a nationwide election. They're elected to represent their current districts. So her being in New York may have played a factor into her her having to vote yes on a bill like that. We don't know. It's just how, the Bronx. It's just how politics works.
He tells her to do.
I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
Mr. Speaker.
For what purposes, gentlemen, seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I came here to make sure our republic doesn't die by unanimous consent in an empty chamber, and I request a recorded vote.
A recorded vote is requested. Those favoring a recorded vote will rise and remain standing until counted. An insufficient number having risen, a recorded vote is refused.
Mr. Speaker.
Is the gentleman recognized?
I object on the basis that a quorum is not present and make a point of order that a quorum is not present.
The chair will count for a quorum. Counted for a quorum is present. The motion is adopted. Without objection, a motion to reconsider is laid upon the table.
Yeah, if you have links, go to the Discord. There's a link channel there.
There you go, and they all
As
cheered.
the Discord gets bigger, I'm gonna have to put bots in there and stuff, and like more channels to make things more clear, because it gets like already now there's like 4 people that post in there, and it's already kind of hard to keep track of.
Largest up there, because they all knew, oh my God, I'm going to get a consulting job for the rest of my life. Oh my God, my donors are going to so take care of me. That's why they're cheering. They're not cheering because they help the country. They're cheering because they just ensured that they're going to have a money train for the rest of their life. That's why they're cheering.
What? They won a political battle. I wonder if they're actually directly thinking, all right, I made the money, my donors are happy, or if they're saying like, okay, I won the freaking game today.
In March, Congress gave billions in COVID relief to the Federal Reserve to help struggling businesses. Katie Porter, who voted for it. This is Katie Porter, another Democrat, voted for this.
Now Katie Porter, the progressive who can win in a swing district. So Katie Porter's in a district that is +3 Republican, and she is a progressive and won in that Republican district. And now Jimmy Dore is going to attack her because she's not good enough. And obviously, Jimmy Dore knows better than Katie Porter. Katie Porter is a certified badass, by the way.
In March, Congress gave billions to COVID relief to the Federal Reserve to help.
Oh yeah, by the way, if anyone wants to become, if anyone ever considers, I'm not telling you to do this because I hate getting stuff like this, but if you ever think about donating something like $10 or something, I'd recommend signing up for a membership instead, so I can make emotes and stuff and badges, and I can make like a Jimmy Dore emote for chat. I started doing memberships on YouTube, but yeah, I'll put the Discord link down there.
Struggling.
I have an Al Gore emote right now, but I need to make more.
Businesses. The Fed pledged these taxpayer dollars would not bail out Wall Street banks. They went back on their word to the tune of $2 billion. So I'm calling them out. You mean that thing you voted for and that Nancy Pelosi engineered? The Fed explicitly stated that COVID relief funds would not help insured depository institutions, aka banks. That makes sense, since many of those banks have had record profits during the coronavirus pandemic, and we just bailed them out in 2008. Yet the Fed used COVID relief funding to purchase $1.3 billion of exchange trade funds, blah, blah. Really? Really?
Oh, yeah. There was supposed to be oversight for something in the CARES Act, but the Trump administration screwed it up and didn't enforce it. So they have to be able to enforce it, like, through the executive. And that's one of the reasons there was bad oversight over this stuff and why money was allocated to different things. I'm not sure what different legislators could have done through the actual bill in order to fix that.
House Democrats voted for the $1 trillion bailout. Y'all are either complicit or stupid. I would go for option C.
Whatever. Yo, Erica. Yo, thank you. Oh, you have the Al Gore by your name. That's beautiful. Now you have Al Gore. Can you actually put Al Gore? Can you put Al Gore in chat? I want to see what it looks like. Do you have the emote screen?
Or bought. And then the people who don't take corporate money still voted for the corporate giveaway anyway because they were told to by Nancy Pelosi. Layoffs. This is the result of the CARES Act, that thing they all voted for. 1.2 million workers filed for unemployment amid COVID-19 spikes, pushing the total in crisis above 55 million. Because clearly the stimulus money went where it should go, right? That was the stimulus Katie Porter voted for, AOC voted for.
No, it got, oh my God. At the point where they voted for it, they had no hand in where the money was directed at that point. They allocated the funds. The mishandling was not a result of them.
Rashid Tlaib voted for. Ro Khanna voted for. In favor of. Bernie Sanders voted for. And of course, Tulsi Gabbard, who was leaving Congress.
Porter is the AOC of swing districts, strong progressive, supports Medicare for all, and won easily. This clown has attacked two of the most progressive congresswomen. And yeah, in American history, honestly.
Hey, 8 million have slipped into poverty since May as federal aid has dried up. Hey, look, there's thousands of people in lines to get food. Because capitalism allows you to pull yourself up by your own bootstraps and drive into a food line.
Are you as tired of politics as most of the people I talk to these days?
Those bread lines are pretty nasty. Pretty bad. I couldn't
Congress heads
imagine.
home for Thanksgiving without pandemic relief deal.
Oh, yeah, that's terrible. Yeah. And AOC is attacking that right now. She's using her political position to attack that, go on MSNBC, CNN to attack that, and getting people to like progressivism more because they're seeing that Nancy Pelosi gave up, that Mitch McConnell gave up.
Could they give you any bigger signal that they don't give a shit about you?
This isn't correlated to AOC, though. I think he's trying to make that connection. This has nothing to do with her. She's doing the right thing right now. Like, every move AOC makes is looked at through a microscope, and she's walking on a tightrope as well. Like, she's in one of the most high-stress positions that's even available in American politics.
They don't care if you're starving. They don't care if you're living under a bridge, on top of a bridge. They don't care if your kid is starving. They don't care if you can't get health care. They're going on vacation without taking care of you.
True.
Of course they are.
100% true.
Of course they are. Because why start working for people now? Let's wait till after the holidays.
Jimmy Dore is such a purity bore, yeah.
Let's wait till after the holidays. Wow. Let's wait till after the holidays. The bottom line, elected officials of both parties, including President Trump, are failing the country. This is from Axios. Couldn't get more mainstream. And they're even saying both parties are failing the country. Even someone like Axios is saying that. But AOC will make it's just the Republicans that are failing you. Not only by succeeding in getting new stimulus passed, but by no longer even trying. Not only by not succeeding in getting new stimulus passed, but by no longer even trying.
Nessie has some ice cream, though.
The time for appropriate...
Yeah, that's the thing. Jimmy Dore never has any solutions. He literally just, screams all the problems over and over again.
Appropriating partisan blame has passed. Not for AOC. The elections are over, so it's no longer defensible for leaders to wait until their side
Wait, not for AOC? This has nothing to... Oh, my God. It
has
has
more
nothing
leverage.
to do with AOC.
Every business or job saved, every family enabled to avoid eviction should now be the priority. Every vacation day is cruelty. The Senate has adjourned for Thanksgiving, abandoning the people during a plague as winter sets in, making a complete farce of the holiday.
Yeah, our government is completely broken. It's not AOC's fault. She's in a freaking faulty system. It's like handing somebody a broken hammer and telling them to, like, hammer to build something. And whenever they try to swing down at the nail, the hammer just freaking breaks off the handle. And then you yell at that person for not being able to build the house. She's doing what she can do. Like, if we were smart, we'd be doing programs like France, like Germany are doing the furlough programs, where wages are nationalized and all the businesses, small business expenses are covered by the government to make sure people don't lose jobs, to make sure people don't go bankrupt, to make sure businesses don't go bankrupt and go under. But we're not doing that. It's a product of this overall system being broken.
This is what you voted for. Nancy Pelosi's going home. And do you hear anybody who you voted for, like the squad,
This
screaming
actually
about
isn't
it?
what they
No.
voted for. Yeah, they are screaming about it. They literally are.
She's out there saying it's the Republicans' fault when Nancy Pelosi runs the House. The Democrats control the House.
The House put forward a bill that covers literally everything. Stimulus, they're actually in a battle to get it through the House right now, because AOC is fighting people on Twitter about it. The Republicans and the Democrats in House are trying to come to a compromise because, again, Republicans want corporations to be free of liability from when their workers get COVID, so they don't have any liability to protect their workers. That is the big debate right now. They're fighting it out in the House right now. This is the current political battle. It would make no sense for her to attack Nancy Pelosi because they're literally on the same side right now. Nancy Pelosi did put forward a good bill. Stimulus for small businesses, stimulus straight to people. The Republicans are holding it up right now. I hate Pelosi too.
That's all you were given, folks. This whole year, that's what they gave you. $1,200.
Why does it say 3
And you know what?
here?
Jill Stein's warning that you can't have a revolution within a counter-revolutionary party has never rang so true. Don't
Jill Stein, the political mastermind.
fall for these insidious liars. If corporate Democrats are wolves in sheep's clothing, progressive Democrats are wolves wrapped as an 8-pound fluffy little cuddle muffin newborn lamb. All identity politics can turn pernicious, including class. Just as we've seen people rise through the ranks saying they'll fight for all of us, only to sell out members of their own class, their own race, their own sex, their own religion. So we got to understand that people will sell out the working class while continuing to point to their own hardship and climb up the economic ladder.
Wait. Okay. Identity politics to point to their own hardship to climb up the ladder while ignoring the working class. Is he saying AOC is doing this? Using her, I guess... Wait.
In all areas, from entertainment to politics, people rise from poverty only to become the most dutiful servants and cheerleaders of the ruling class. From Jay-Z to Howard Schultz to Bill Clinton to J.K. Rowling. Clarence Thomas came from a splintered and struggling childhood.
Oh, you don't see a join button, Sarah? So on my profile, if you go to my actual homepage, it should say there's a subscribe button, there's a notification button, and then there's a join button. If you hit the join button, it gives you different options. And then I could talk to you about you could take the money off of Patreon then, so it doesn't do that too.
It went on to become a stalwart defender of economic inequality. I say stop looking to leaders because we only have each other. If you want to buck the tide of human history, be your own hero.
Oh, Brandon, I'll post this video as a VOD tomorrow. My reasoning for why I'm mad at Dore for this video is in the prior half of this rant. And it's about the political process in general that he ignores. Of course, we all agree. The system is corrupt. Government is bad. They didn't do enough for the people. But there's a reason why it's happening. And it's not because of a lack of will from AOC. And it's not because AOC is somehow stupid in politics. Or that somehow AOC is weak and doesn't care enough to fight. There's a lot of identifiable reasons why this stuff happens that Jimmy Dore likes to ignore. And instead he just gets mad and screams into the microphone, into his echo chamber about it. And he doesn't really debate people. When he does debate people like Sam Cedar, he looks absolutely silly.